Hello, and welcome to Seeking Heaven, the Near Death Experience, and Other Phenomena. I'm your host, Tamara Caulder Richardson, as well as a 6-time near death experiencer, an evidential medium, Christ Chandler, and ultradimensional channel. Welcome to the Seeking Heaven channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please do like, make comments, tell your friends, and also consider donating. Every little bit really helps with the production of this channel and also getting you top level people here. So I appreciate it. Look, I want to jump right into today's guest. Is a real treat. It's something really different that I don't normally have. It's this topic is going to be really fascinating for a lot of you. And today we have a guest that is Machiel Klerk. He is a psychotherapist and he's also the author of Dream Guidance. I've got it right here. And that is connecting to the soul through dream incubation. So let me bring him on. Machiel, so nice to have you.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here, Tamara.
Oh, yes. I've been excited about this because I've been reading your book and I'm like, this is good news for a lot of people that can find answers to life's mysteries through their dreams and then interpreting that.
Right. We all carry inside, outside of us, a guiding force, some mystery force that helps, comes in many different forms. And one of the forms that comes to us is in our dreams. And many cultures throughout times have acknowledged and noticed that. And I wrote a book on how you can actually proactively get that guidance.
Well, I thought it was really interesting how you just didn't wake up one day probably said, "Hey, I'm going to write this book," but the fact that your career unfolded in this direction with your clientele and also with yourself. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, the in my early 20s, I was stuck in my life. I was in a dark pit of depressive state. I hadn't dealt well with the loss of my father at the age when I was 10. He died, and my culture didn't know how to deal with it. I had no future vision, and by some fortunate circumstances, if such a thing exists, or it might be some helpful little nudging of the universe, I stumbled upon the works of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychotherapist who wrote also extensively about dreams. So then I started reading about dreams, applying it to my own life, and at once I saw how my dreams did portray my own inner life, and also where it tried to move towards. So I connected to the dream figures, reconnected with my dad, and life started to get color and purpose again. And that's really where it started. Dreams did heal me, and then it became part of my life, and later on, part of my psychotherapy part and the book.
Now, I'm curious, do you use that now as part of your psychotherapy if people are open to that?
Yeah, it's not necessarily, but a lot of people know I do it, and so I encourage them. I said, "Well, if you
Right.
have a dream," and very often then they have a dream, or there's some big dream that, especially around the start of therapy, happens. They see that it gives insight. It's sometimes like a psychological X-ray. It portrays the way we are inside in a way that otherwise is very difficult to access, because the mind can make up, I think I have this problem, but you get an X-ray of what really goes on. And when people see that, they're usually come in with more dreams and bring them in.
What I liked about your parts of your book is you gave example questions, but the way you did it was open ended because sometimes people are so literal that that I mean, I find that the mind doesn't always. Sometimes it's very literal, and other times it's metaphoric. So you have
Yeah.
open ended questions, and the other thing is you're coming in there with the intent with your dreams of discovering something. Do you find that it's always is it usually in many dreams or in one dreams or both answers?
Well, I think that most dreams, well, depends. There's many different dreams. Some dreams portray what happens in the future. Other dreams show what maybe is happening with your sister in Europe.
Hmm.
Other dreams show what goes on inside of you, and there might be more anxiety dreams. Other dreams portray are more responsive to ponderings we have. And in the book, I work out this technique where you proactively, before you go to bed, ask your dream a question. And then you see that the dream actually responds to this engagement, this questioning. And that's so that's that type of dream. But there are multiple dreams.
So how do you feel after doing this work so long? How that works? Is that a version of our higher self? Is that a split segmentation of ourself responding somehow? I mean, there's an attachment there. Somehow we are responding on some higher level, right?
Yes, and at the end of the day, I tend to call it the mystery, just as
Mm.
an easy way to say, maybe some people would say God or spirit guide or ancestor. There's some mysterious force in us, outside of us, that is interested in helping and educating. And we can proactively trigger that force by asking it questions. So even if people don't believe in any of it, they call it the brain, it still works, but it comes with information that we don't really have. It knows more about us than, and so it's not limited to the little self.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is big. I like how you encompass all of it. It's whatever that is that's a part of us that makes us here now, whatever that may be. But some of these things are pretty deep. Like there was one I really liked. I was like, wow, you
Mhm.
really get in there. There was um, some of these are wild. How can I be more vulnerable? One, they're open
Mhm.
ended. What is it about? Like, what is it about my character that I need to know right now?
Yeah,
They're very. I love the one. How can I learn to love more? That's really pretty. I like that. But they're more open. What is it
yeah,
that even the anger things? Like if I'm angry, why is it that I'm displaying anger right now? And in opening the bigger question. So, and you've got some examples in here. Do you want to give an example of either yourself or unknown client how this might work?
yeah. And I think you indeed picked up correctly on the notion that it's much better to ask an open-ended question, because that gives the psyche or the mystery of your spirit guide the ability to answer. Otherwise, we maybe think, is it this? And then it gets a bit stuck. It's
Mhm.
and if people want to test it tonight, the question about how can I be more loving, and especially how can I be more loving to myself.
Yeah.
I've done tests with that, and it triggers very high. It's very high success rate in it. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
and mhm.
so could you give us an example of where someone was suffering with something psychological and then went into a dream state and they got not only answers but some relief?
Yeah, and recently there was a man who had been divorced for a year, wanted to go back in dating, and he noticed that his dating life wasn't going so well, and of which those who are dating might relate to. And so he thought, what I really want a relationship. And if, first he was pondering, shall I ask, how do I find a partner? Which is a good question, but it's pretty broad. And then he thought, well, what he really wanted to know is, what is my biggest obstacle in dating?
Oh, okay.
And part of this technique really lies in developing a great question, because the question defines the answer. And so he asked, what is my biggest obstacle in dating? Did a little ritual, a prayer, made a drawing, and then went to bed, slept, and had the following dream. He said, I'm driving my car in a tunnel, and I think I see something in the distance. When I get closer, I see it's a tiger. It's beautiful, but I get really scared, slam on the brakes, and I drive back. So he writes it down in the morning, which is very important because otherwise we forget the dream. And so he writes it down, and then he asks himself, what is happening? And it's a great question to work with your dream. What is happening? And he says, what is happening is this, I'm moving along, and when I see something really beautiful and scary, I slammed the brakes and I'm out of it. And then he thought, how does that relate to my dating life? Well, he was like, oh
Mm.
yeah, when I get close to someone that is actually really of interest to me, I'm out. I get scared. And so that gave him a lot of material to work on again. And then he can ask the next question and the next question till finally he's where he wants to be. But it's a journey. So that's
Well,
an example. Yeah.
this does sound like a journey, and also when someone's going through this, you have clientele that you can actually help them as they're not only on the journey, but working on things in their wake time too, I imagine.
Yeah, the dream is a state that we enter at night. With that state of consciousness, the ancestor, the spirit guide, the divine, the mystery doesn't disappear the moment we open our eyes. It's just still there. And of course, we can also, sorry, we can also ask in this reality questions to our spirit guide or the mystery, and it will find ways to communicate with us. The dream is just a very easy way to do this because it gives a clear example.
Well, now one of the things I found interesting, and I got kind of excited about it, that you talk about in here also ancestors and people that we love that
Hmm.
have departed from us in this world. And because that to me, after you do a lot of this work, doesn't that kind of just pop up? With
Yeah.
people like, oh yeah, my dad, we never had closure and he just showed up in a dream. I mean, doesn't that happen quite often?
Yes, and beautiful that you bring it up. Indeed, the deceased loved ones do also visit us in dreams. It's not that often that it happens to an individual, but usually it's very impactful.
Mm,
And they meet dad, and dad just communicates in some form or fashion that he loves them, or that he's there, or that he watches over them, or
mhm.
something. And yeah, also in my own case, I started dreaming about my dad and having these experiences that my dad came in the dream, and it was very comforting and soothing, and it reestablished the bond. I knew he was there on the other side. Sure, definitely different than if you can have a meal with him, but
Right.
it opens life up to a much larger life, as you also know.
Yes. Well, my near-death experiences opened that door. I didn't really, you hear that a lot. But once you do open this door to the possibilities, that definitely could happen and could be healing. And I think that dreams, especially with departed loved ones, is a safe way to communicate with people. I
Hmm.
remember my grandmother many years after she had departed, and we were very close. She was a big personality, very funny. And she came to me in a dream, and we were in a cafeteria line. And I said, "What are we doing here?" She goes, "I love it here. Look at all the choices you have." And,
Mm.
and we sat down. I said, "Why are we here?" She goes, "Just so we can visit."
Oh,
And it was spectacular. It was so
yes.
much fun. And it was just great. I know it doesn't seem like much, but she loved those places because all the food, and she didn't have to make it. Somebody else made it. And
Yeah.
so to me that was just joyful and not really,
Well,
it was just a visit.
yeah, I also love that comment of Grandma that she says, just so that we can meet. And I think that is so beautiful. And also, for that happens, research shows that very often a deceased loved one comes by in the first year and a half after they die.
Yeah.
It's not a science, but in general, they come and they communicate somehow. Hey, we're here. We can communicate. We can share some time together. They seem to be very often very matter of fact about it, and probably because they've adapted to the other world.
Yes. Yes, and it's interesting with me being a medium, didn't really think I'd be doing that later in life, but it was just a secret I always had.
Yeah.
Uh, but they seem to visit people before their sessions with me in
Mm-hmm.
dreams. And that seems, even to the biggest skeptic, it seems normal to them. It does. Most people will accept this even if they won't admit it.
Yeah, yeah, and,
And
and it's a great way to communicate, and you can, and then you see they're still around, and then actually they're also around right now, and so the relationship can continue in a different form, and
that's
this,
beautiful. That's very true. That's beautiful. That's why it's comforting because it is a different form, and in the end, it's consciousness, right? So it's our consciousness and their consciousness. So with this dream, with the guidance, which I'm a big fan of, I think that it's fascinating if you allow that to, you know, to happen and experience it in your life and learn from it. And I think it's great what you're doing here and helping people. Although I think you're probably going to need a companion guide to follow up with it to explain things. But I know each thing is different for each person and so forth, what comes up in the dream state. But does it ever get to a point where the person is dreaming where they actually feel like they're astral traveling some?
yeah, I think that we use dream for a whole wide range of experiences. Um, People have out of body experiences during night, and would still come back the next day and report, I had a strange dream. I was in my room, and Uncle Joe, deceased Uncle Joe, was there, and the room was just really identical to their normal room. Most likely they were in an out of body experience
I see.
encountering Uncle Joe, but we just call everything dream. And
Hmm.
but I think in the dream is a term for the other worlds, of which
Yes.
the astral world, out of body experience, near
Okay.
death world, psychedelic world, dream world. It's all different worlds coexisting.
Okay, good. That's how I see it too. It's a
Yeah,
lot going on, and there's a dreams where it can seem very much so reality, or people waking up a dream within a dream, which could be astral traveling. So I guess that's permitted. Have you ever had a client to go, "I was dreaming, and then and I found myself in something. It was so real." Do you ever get that feedback?
yeah, and also that they have come back with real information about other places, other locations that they otherwise couldn't know. But I also
Right.
think that one of the key features of a dream is that we experience it. A dream is a world. It's not a movie we watch. It's really a world we find ourselves in, and we take that world for real. We walk around, we see the crocodile, and we run because our mind thinks it's like this reality. If we knew it was a dream, then you're in a lucid dream, you would know, oh, this is a dream crocodile. I can talk to it, I can fly, I can even let it eat me. Nothing really will happen because I will still wake up with my body intact. Um, but that is because the dream world is presents itself as real, and it's hard to distinguish between imaginal reality and what I call dense reality, this reality.
Which that would fall in the category of someone, perhaps would have a prophetic dream, like, 9/11. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people were
Mm-hmm.
dreamed ahead of
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
before that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens, and it shows that there's something in us that knows about the future, that knows what is about what can happen or will happen, and we can build a relationship with this knowing. We can nurture that connection. Say, hey, I know you knew that my daughter got pregnant before she even told me,
Mhm.
and it wasn't visible yet. This is great, and let's build a relationship so that you can tell me other things that I can do in life, so that I can support people better, I can be a kinder person, I can do something interesting with my life, and that force is excited when we engage with it.
No, absolutely. That makes total sense. Well, you have a five-step process. You wanna tell I'm gonna put you on the big screen. You wanna tell everybody kinda how you came up with that? Let me
Yeah.
here. Let me put you here. Let me get you up there instead of me. There you go. Go
All
ahead.
right.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I'm going to listen for a minute.
Yes. So the first is that you identify that you have a question. We all walk around in life with multiple questions, and you want to take a question that is pressing. So take something that's emotionally relevant or you really want to know. Not what did my neighbor have for dinner last night, but uh, whatever it is. And if you don't know, you could go with the idea of how can I be a more loving person. But there's almost always something that we want to know. Then the second step is that you develop that you write it in a great way. So make sure it's an open-ended question. Make sure that you ask one question at a time, because if you ask two questions, you get a very convoluted answer. If I would ask, how can I find a partner, and how can I earn more money, then I don't know what part of the dream responds to which part of the question. So you asked one night, how can I find a partner? And the next night, a question maybe about your career. But also there, make it a generous question. So instead of asking how can I earn more money, ask how can I provide a service that benefits people and that could sustain me in my living. Then you open it up, and something generous in us is more interested in supporting that. So phrasing the question is really important. That is step two. Step three, which is specific in step three, but is part of the whole process, is create a ritual. And with ritual, I mean set an intention before you go to bed. Maybe you do a prayer, you make a drawing, a dance, do something symbolically relevant, like the story about the man that was searching for its biggest obstacle in love had drawn an heart with a question mark over it. And with that, it signified to the higher self or the mystery, uh, I'm serious about this. I would love to get some answers so that you really treat the other side as a partner on your journey and you use it, treat it with respect. Step four, go to bed, sleep, meditate in bed a little bit on the question, because that state just before you fall asleep trickles through in your night. And then in the morning, write down the dream, because they evaporate. That has to do with our short-term memory not being fully active yet. So write it down and then work on it. And we can talk more about how to do it, but those are the 5 steps.
Wow. And I like that you said that you have dream journals everywhere. I do too. I tell people, well, this happened and that happened, and write it down.
Write it down, yes. And even research shows that, for example, in people with PTSD dreams, that just by the fact by writing it down, the PTSD or the nightmares become less. So when something in us gets heard and noticed and observed, it changes the way it expresses itself. And we will, to our own surprise, we refine our attention, not only to our intuition from the night, but if we do that, we will have more little miracles happen in day-to-day life.
I agree. That's true because aren't you merging that side of your brain that's dormant that goes into those altered
Hmm.
states? What is it? The
Yeah,
different waves, the different brain waves, and you're bringing it more during the waking hours so you can interpret the world better. Don't you
yeah.
think it gives you more balance?
More balance, more guidance, more fulfillment, being more in tune with life, more resilient, a lot of mores, positive mores.
So, so as far as your mentor, Carl Jung, do you feel like that I mean, do you see him ever in dreams, or was it just that one time? Do you feel like that he knows that you're continuing on with his work?
Yeah, I do think so.
Why wouldn't he, right? Why wouldn't he from another altered state, right? Why
Yes,
wouldn't he?
yes, I do think so, and um, And I haven't dreamt about him in years, many years, but um, yeah, I think you do.
Well, it's funny. There was one time in particular. Well, I could have several examples, but
Yeah.
this is very funny. It's similar. I was listening to George Harrison,
Hmm.
and I listened to him for 2 days straight. Just
Ah.
2 days straight. So
Hmm.
guess who showed up in a dream to me? And guess who gave me fantastic advice? He told me how he worked himself out of this world because things didn't make him happy here because he became so, I don't know, zenned out, meditated out, that
Hmm.
that things bothered him, noises and sounds. And he talked about buying this monastery, and he told me to always stay connected and always do normal things and to always appreciate things and to be a part of this world because that's why you're here. It was like the most wonderful gift. I
It's
really didn't
beautiful.
expect that. I know, isn't it? What a gift. He said he loved
Yeah.
his family, but other than that, even the music didn't give him the joy that it used to.
Huh. But I think it's a beautiful example that you share of a spontaneous, helpful dream. It shows that dreams and the dream characters are interested in supporting. And I know it doesn't always look that way if the nightmare comes by and the monster is chasing us. But even there, if we can take some angle to look at why this figure shows up. But here you have a spontaneous dream where you get really some nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah, it's true, and I think that's the other thing. It can interact with us instead of us just being an observer in our dreams or
Hmm.
being a participant. We can also it can be interactive,
Yeah.
and I think that has more to do with the person's willingness to accept that.
It has a lot to do with that. Sometimes it breaks through whether we want it or not and gives us some help. But I also think it shows that we're not alone in this journey. We have a whole host of invisible helpers uh, on standby, willing to step in, and especially willing to step in when we elicit their help. And so it's life is difficult. So let's elicit help.
I love that. Invisible helpers. I have this little thing that I say a tagline. We all have a fan club in heaven because they're cheering us on. Heaven could be whatever,
Hmm.
whatever consciousness, but
Hmm.
it's everybody seems to like that word. But yeah, it's consciousness that we have these invisible helpers that are around us because it doesn't make sense for people to have been before us and to have these incredible lives and have this consciousness, this love, this connection to humanity, and then what? Now they don't have a say. That's it. And so I think that that is what a fantastic way to pierce through the barriers. And you don't even have to have a near death experience. It's just do it in your dream state, which is it's not threatening. To me, it's a form of meditation when you
Yeah.
rest and go into that. So I look forward to going to sleep every night because I can't wait to see where I'm going to go.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if you're that way,
Yeah.
but it's an exciting journey.
Yes, and it broadens the range of experiences we have. And there's many ways you can be or work with a dream. You can have a more focus more on the feelings and experiences in the dream and feel it in your body. And the more you practice that at night, almost like in a laboratory, and then in the morning you just feel the feelings again, the more
Mm.
resilient you become and more elastic, by which in musical symbolism, the range just becomes broader. You can experience more, and life gets more color or more musical tonality to it. And that's all what there's so many ways we can engage with the dream state to make life more rich.
Yeah, so you're talking about frequency and expanding our frequency
Right.
reach.
Yeah.
It's funny in my dream state. That is just so funny that you said that, Michael, because I have been getting examples of music a lot.
Hmm.
And, the piano keys,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
if you had all the piano keys at one time hit, it would sound terrible, right? It would
Mm-hmm.
not be harmonious.
Mm-hmm.
But if they go down at different times, and I was being explained in a dream how there's timing to things, and
Ah.
how just like the keys have to go down in a beautiful order for it to make a beautiful song, there's a rolling out of things at a particular time that is important to be aware of, almost
Mm.
surrender to the timing and flowing with that, with the rhythm, and that and then I just was shown all these notes and frequency and said that's what we are. We're speaking an unconscious frequency. So um, do you feel like that this study that you have done with dreams and with your book Dream Guidance has um, it's something that you feel like that might help people expand their own consciousness too?
Yeah, I think it does, and I think what also is beautiful in the example you gave is that life says there is a secret order, or is an order underlying in the unfolding, and to trust that and to really lean into it. It's so helpful to know if you have the direct experience. Yes, there is something, and sometimes the timing isn't there. It's not
Mm,
because you do the wrong thing or you should push harder. You need
mm,
to learn to feel into your own self and know, oh, this doesn't feel like the right timing, or this now it feels that way, and then we can be in tune with the tune of the universe, and then life becomes easier. We'll always have enough hurdles on it, but it becomes so much easier when you're in tune. And yeah, I think
mm.
it's there.
And you gave an example of the lady about timing and so forth, and why was she stressed all the time? And that kind of reminded me of that as well. But
Yeah,
there's also times that we feel an urgency that, hey, it's time to make the move. It's time to make
right.
here's your opportunity. Here's your window
Yeah,
open.
yeah.
And sometimes that will be, I think, reflected in dreams as well. But I think that what you were talking about, feelings, is not just what happens in a dream for me, but it's also how did it feel? Like I woke up holding a white snake once, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't
Mm-hmm.
scary. I felt the white snake was an extension of myself.
Yeah, yeah. In dream work, it's very important to look at what the feelings are, and you cannot just say, "Oh, a snake is this or that."
Right.
It's a particular snake. It's a snake that it's your dream snake, and what is your experience of it? Maybe you feel a friendship with the snake, or you're terrified for snake, or the feelings are very important. That is true. And dreams, it makes me think about a client I recently had who had a job opportunity, and that she was thinking about. And in the dream, she was standing on a bridge, and a boat came by, and she knew she's standing, and she knew she wanted to jump on the new boat. She was a little bit hesitant, and then the dream ended, and I gave her the sense of, hey, you see, symbolically it makes sense, and also the
Yes.
encouragement. The time is now. The boat is coming by. Jump, and
Yeah.
sure, jumping is scary, but
Right.
if you don't jump, you miss the boat.
I mean, that I think that's a great example because there are opportunities and times that people ask you, and if
Yeah,
you say no or don't make yourself available, it's not gonna that boat's not gonna come by again.
right, right.
That's a beautiful example. So really, another thing that I feel like that, not just with dreams per se, but you're teaching people to be more mindful and understanding their own feelings.
Yes, yes,
Right? Because
yeah.
your dreams, they're pretty raw, that whatever you're thinking or bothering you or whatever's there, it comes up, doesn't it?
It is a display of your own part of it is a display of your own inner life, or your own life in this metaphorical world that you find yourself in. And what you can see is that you will have your habitual self. So maybe you're stressed out, and so you will be stressed out in the dream. But then in the dream, there will be different characters with different states of consciousness. You might meet a calm cab driver, and then you can work on the embodied state of being stressed out and sense the calm cab driver, and now you could bring these two states together. almost like you put two fluids in a vessel,
Mm.
and then they will start mixing, and they will give you a new way of being in your day-to-day state. So your own psyche will have different states of consciousness that usually lie a little bit outside the sphere of your awareness, but in dreams you can access them and get use them to improve your ability to navigate day-to-day life.
I agree. I think that the biggest frustration I feel is these books that are out these days that explain what dreams mean. And I find a lot of them are just really,
Yeah.
they mislead people. And I don't like the snake example, you would normally think scary, right?
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
have had dreams with snakes in them. One was danger. It was frightening because the way the snake looked, it was yellow and black. Another
Mm-hmm.
one was snakes were trying to all get on my bed and attack me. What is your bed? That's your place of safety, right? And that was, I didn't trust some people, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
they were trying to do business with me. What you've heard, it, like business, get in bed with someone. So the
Yeah.
snakes were. I'm like, I didn't trust them, and they came through as snakes. But then the white one was friendly, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to cuddle with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you go through this with your clientele? I know you've got your dream guidance book that does help people go through the different steps, but to interpret it, that's the difficult part. How do you get them to look at that? Is it through the feelings first, how it came to them as a feeling?
Yeah, feelings is a great way to work with the dream, and then ask the question, what is happening? And in what is happening, you have both somewhat of a storyline as you get certain experiences. I was with a white snake that was really kind,
Mm,
and I felt so and so towards the snake. That then you don't even need to interpret who and what is snake, but you're just being with the snake, and the snake that is kind, and you have this kind feeling, and you remember being with snake, and then you'll just walk around that day with snake with you, and you just talk to the snake and say, hey snake, we're going in this meeting, it was nice if you would be there, and then
mm.
just see if you have certain feelings, thoughts, intuitions. So in that way, you can also take these dream figures with you without needing to interpret them, and you will notice they do also something.
That's interesting. So you're saying embrace it. Like in this case, the snake,
Yeah.
which normally would be scary, was friendly. I looked
Mm-hmm.
at his face. He looked kind of friendly. He was very innocent white, like purity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's not there to harm me. He was there. He kept me warm. I don't know. I have no clue really still, but it felt comforting,
Mm-hmm.
strangely, because I don't think snakes are comforting, but it felt
Yeah.
that way. And
Yeah.
I felt it was an extension of myself, but it felt okay to look at that. So you're saying just look at it, kind of embrace it, reflect upon it through the day, through the week. Is that what you're saying? And let more things unfold?
Yes. And even with difficult figures like a nightmare, if you have
Mm,
someone chasing you,
mhm,
maybe first bring in maybe an figure that is safe, like
mm,
grandma, bring grandma in, or
mm,
so someone that you feel safe with, and then turn towards monster and say, monster or burglar, you're
mhm.
scaring me. I don't know. I want you to stay away a little bit, but is there anything you want to tell me? Why are you chasing me? And then see if a thought comes, or you let monster write back to you, and then monster will say, well, Tamara, I've been following you for a long time because I wanted to tell you something. And you go
Mm.
like, well, what do you want to tell? And then you just engage in an interaction, and then you see that these figures that we usually push away 9 out of 10 times try to be closer to us to tell us something, but we're so scared for them that they become dark,
Mm.
and they just don't give up on us.
Okay. Do you feel like that some nightmares are maybe not just anxiety or paranoid notions, but maybe the past also coming up for people?
Yeah, people, and not only their own past, can be a previous life or something that problem that run in the family. It's
Okay.
just still in that psyche and comes up again.
Really? Okay, so past life things do come up. That's interesting. You're
Yeah.
pretty open-minded, Machiel. You're a pretty
It,
cool psychotherapist. I think I'd like to go to someone like you.
it,
You're pretty open about things. But you're right, when you're dealing with the consciousness, that's a very deep rabbit hole. It could go into other lives. Has that happened in cases with you where these things have come up with people in your clientele?
Yeah, you sometimes even see it in phobias. I had a client who was claustrophobic and
Mm,
was dreaming about being imprisoned. And then his grandfather had been imprisoned for 23 or 24 years. So
okay.
that fear had been in the family, and he had never been in prison. It was never locked up. He was
Mm,
like, I don't know where this comes from, and it's just something that hasn't been worked out in the family, in the larger family psyche, and then just ends up at the doorstep of this person who uh, has to
interesting.
deal with it. Yeah,
That wasn't even the person's, that was the grandfather. So you're saying
yeah,
how so through the, connection through the
mm-hmm.
family line,
Yeah,
some kind of soul level, this just filtered through these memories
yeah,
through the next whatever this generation, the following gen that's unusual. I guess that's possible, sure. Sure,
yeah.
why not? Not it doesn't have to be your own past, it could be. I suppose
No,
so.
we inherit DNA
Yeah,
structures
sure.
from our family line, and talents and qualities also sometimes move through. You see that not infrequently certain wounds seem to pass on, and not only pass on from
Mhm,
I was wounded and now I wound you, but underneath that wounding
mhm.
is just something that needs to be worked out. It's a cluster of karma
Well, if
that people get.
so if a person, theoretically, I would imagine, if they work that out with themselves, they're actually freeing their family line,
Yeah,
right, from carrying this, whatever it is, fear
yes,
of.
yeah.
They're assisting the entire family line, correct?
Correct, and the
Wow.
family forward and the family backward, because it looks like, and I don't know if that's
Mm,
your experience, but even that on the other end, the development on the other, when people die, that their development doesn't stop. They continue to work
yeah,
on their consciousness,
same
and
as here.
yeah, and sometimes they have the similar problem as my grandfather as me, and so me working on this issue, I can also elicit the help of my grandfather and say, "Hey, grandfather, you also had this problem. Let's do this together."
Yes. It actually comes through it's crazy. It comes through in a lot of my sessions where they'll have a phobia and I'll say, "Your grandfather said they also had depression and they had the same phobia and
Yeah.
so did his father was named whoever Harold."
Mm-hmm.
And it comes up, they like tell the person and they go, "Oh my God, I heard about that." So, I'm like, I guess a spiritual therapist, but that's something that I didn't really anticipate. But why not? We are connected and we
Yeah.
come in soul groups together. So we must share a lot, not just
Mm-hmm.
DNA, but probably, who knows, lifetimes that could get very entangled. So I imagine the depths that you could take the stream guidance could be pretty far.
Yes, it can go very deep, and it can work on the level of gift and purpose and family karma, all the way up to very practical things. Is how can I what kind of food is good for me to eat, or how can I find a fulfilling career, or how can I be better in my relationship with my daughter, father, partner, anything that's relevant to our soul. The dream is actually trying to find a way for us to give expression to that, and by turning towards it, we open up so that something else can come in.
Well, I think people, especially more than ever, are very open to this and very open to the information and the messages that you've said today that about dream guidance because people are looking for answers, and most of the answers are within yourself. I always say the
Very,
greatest journey you'll ever take is you. What would you like people from your research that you have done in this area? is there anything as they're moving forward and they're going to purchase your book, okay, Dream Guidance, so they're going to start going through this, is there anything that you want to pass along to them as they're doing their own dream guidance and they're working through their own life's issues and writing it down? Do you want to give them a message?
Yeah, what I want to encourage people is play with it, experiment with it. You cannot really make a big mistake. The other side will never be angry. So just elicit help, formulate a question, and if you read the book, you will give some practical steps, as one question at a time, and how to do that. That will be just helpful, because then you don't have to make all the mistakes that I made throughout the years to refine the method, and then test it. Or even tonight, you listen to it, maybe you buy into it, or you're skeptical. Ask questions that work very well, as how can I be more loving to myself? What is one type of food that is good for me to eat? And try it and then see. And if it works, great. Then you have a tool that can guide you for the rest of your life, whether you use it once a month, once a year, only when you're in big trouble, or on a regular basis, doesn't matter. You have something that you can do, and have fun with it. Have fun.
I think that's great advice. It's a terrific tool, and for them to have fun. And they also know how to get in touch with you, which is down below in the description. But you can also go to MachielKlerk.com, which you've got there, and also the JungPlatform.com. As we wrap up, do you want to mention about that website as well?
Yeah, it is jungplatform.com. It's a company that was born out of a nighttime dream. I won't describe the whole dream, but the dream took us a suggestion to build this platform where we have all kinds of programs on Jungian psychology and dreams, like synchronicity and archetypes and individuation, and but also the tarot and dreams, and a lot of free programs. So take a look, see if it's something that's of interest, and follow your heart.
Well, thank you so much, Machiel, for your time. I really enjoyed it. I think that you are really very insightful. The things that you're the points that you mentioned, and this is something that you could really embrace. It could really help you with your life. So everybody, buy Machiel's book, Dream Guidance, and thank you so much for being on the Seeking Heaven channel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please subscribe, like, and make comments, and support this channel by becoming a member. Thank you for your continued support.